Hi, everybody. Welcome. Just waiting for everyone to load in. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Hey, everybody. We're just going to wait a moment just until everybody loads in. I'm going to put some information in the chat throughout our event. However, you're going to be using the Q&A feature if you have any questions throughout the event that you'd like us to answer. So just make sure you're keeping your eye on both the chat and the Q&A if you want to post questions. The chat will have information that we want to share with you, whether it be emails or different websites. So just make sure you check out the chat. And then again, if you have any questions, please feel free to post it in the Q&A section, which is a little button right down there. So we'll go ahead and get started. And as people join us, they can just join in. So my name is Christina Lafaso. I am a senior admissions advisor at Stony Brook University. I want to first thank you all so much for joining me today. It's an absolutely beautiful day out here in New York. Wherever you're located, I hope you're having a beautiful day or night, depending on where you are. So what today is really getting ready for your junior year. This particular event is geared towards rising juniors in high school. If there's anybody that's not a rising junior, maybe you're a freshman and you're just checking it out, maybe you're a transfer student or anywhere in between, you'll absolutely get some useful information throughout today, especially with resources. But this is really how to prepare for your junior year to make the most out of your year. Sometimes summers are just a time to relax. So it's not really stuff to do this summer, more about how to make this particular upcoming year for you all who are rising juniors as productive as possible. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, yes, so today's session is being recorded. We will be able to have it available later on the admissions YouTube page for Stony Brook University. So if you'd like to go back and check anything out, or you have friends that weren't able to make it, they can absolutely view this recording on our YouTube. The other thing to note is that it's not just me here today. I do have a few of my colleagues in the background who will be assisting with answering your questions. So again, use that Q&A feature for any questions throughout the presentation, and then we'll have time at the end to answer them verbally. All right, we're going to start off with a poll just so I can get to know who you all are. There's quite a lot of you. So let's go ahead and get our first question going, which is basically who you are. Are you a freshman student? Are you a student, a parent, maybe a counselor or a family member of a student? So let's get to know. A lot of you are answering already. Most of you are students. We have a couple parents here. Hi, parents. Thanks for joining. All right, so it looks like 96%, almost all of you are students. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and go to our next question, which is really getting to know where you're at in high school, or even if you are in high school. Are you a senior, junior, sophomore, freshman? Are you a transfer student? Are you some other kind of student? So go ahead and click on the one that is right for you. So as expected, most of you are juniors, but we do have a few seniors and a few sophomores here. Wonderful. There's a couple more trickling in. Great. So about 88% of you are juniors. Perfect. This is the event for you seniors and sophomores out there. Again, still really helpful information. Seniors, you're getting ready to kind of start your senior year. Again, useful information. Sophomores, you're the ones really prepping. So love it. All right, next question, which is kind of where you're at in the college exploration process. Are you just getting started and have no idea about it? Did you recently begin? Are you one of those fully prepared students and you already know where you're going to be applying? So just kind of read through, pick which one is best for you. No right or wrong answer here. I'm trying to think back. For my junior year, I had no idea, I think, where I wanted to go. I had a little slight insight as to what I wanted to do, which has completely changed now. But it looks like the bulk of you just recently began, around 45% of you. About a quarter of you already have your list of colleges that you want to learn more about. Uh, the 17% of you overachievers, you already know exactly where you're applying and want to learn more about them. And about 14% of you are just taking the first step towards learning about colleges. So congrats. That's probably a few of our sophomores in there. But wherever you're at in the process, this is the time to really start. So wherever you are is a wonderful thing. Now, our last question is just giving a sense of, and this is very broad, what kind of academic major area you're interested in. So if we could go ahead and get that poll. Okay, so what academic area are you considering? Maybe pre-med, anything with pre-law, somewhere in the STEM field, whether it be science or mathematics or engineering, anywhere in the arts, whether it be performing arts, fine arts, music, film, broadcasting, anything, journalism, creative writing, social sciences like psychology or sociology, humanities like social justice, global studies, political science, anything else, English, undecided, and then anything other. Maybe I didn't mention anything. So it looks like almost half of you, which is pretty typical of a Stony Brook audience, are interested in the health sciences and pre-med. Over a quarter of you are interested in STEM, which is another popular area at Stony Brook. And a few of you are kind of trickling in throughout the rest of the field. So this is awesome. I just wanted to gauge and get to know you all a little bit better. Thank you all so much for participating in those polls. All right, so where we really started when we were thinking of how to approach, how to make your junior year as productive as possible, we went back to the questions that we are constantly asked, whether it be in person at college fairs, when we used to do them, or at any of our virtual events, perhaps our phone calls that we receive in our office, we get text messages, we get emails. So just thinking back to students who are approaching their junior year, the questions that we particularly receive. Now you can see them on your screen. They really have to do with, how do I get into your college? What makes me the best candidate? Is there anything I can do to enhance my application? How do I find out more about your school? And all of these different questions that you can start going into your junior year. So we're really going to kind of guide the rest of our event today on these kind of frequently asked questions that we get from you all, from parents, from counselors, on how to best kind of pursue the last 2 years of high school. So the next slide is really just to kind of show that you can start with you, and really to know that you're not alone. So these are questions that we ask you guys. These are questions that you should be asking yourself. These are questions that counselors are going to start asking you, and that are really important to kind of guide you through the college application process. So what does it mean to be undecided? And really that kind of question that we get is so important, because we do receive a lot of applications for students who have no idea what they want to do. Maybe you want to be pre-med, right? There was almost half of you that wanted to go into the health sciences or some kind of pre-med field. But what does that really mean? Now, to be pre-med, you don't have to be in any particular major. A lot of students think that they have to pursue biology or chemistry or even health sciences, but that's not the case. We have art history majors that go into medical school. We have English majors. We have music majors. The number one suggestion that our medical school has given us to share with you all is to choose a major that you love, but one that loves you back. Okay, let that sink in for a second. Choose a major that you love, but one that loves you back. So it's really easy to say, okay, I have to be biology because I want to go pre-med. But the reality is that you don't. If you are not really great with math and science, biology is not going to be the right place for you. But perhaps you still want to go on to medical school, as many other non-STEM students do. So you go into a history field, or you go into anthropology. So there are many things that goes into kind of figuring out what major you want. Now, it's quite typical for students when they enter college to change their major a couple times, because you start to see that there's no one right way of doing things in school. And that's absolutely the case at Stony Brook. So what does it mean to be undecided? It means that you have time for exploration, that you have time to really take courses in a few different fields that you might be interested in, that you will have the support from not only our advisors and our first year advisors, but also our career center that will help you with career exploration, which we'll talk about, and support to really guide you into the correct path for you, whether that be a certain major. Maybe you're majoring in something, but you have 3 different minors. So there's a lot of different paths to take. Now, are there requirements for my major? This is another important question. If you absolutely, we had a lot of STEM students here. So if you are interested in, let's say, engineering, Stony Brook has a wonderful ABET accredited, which is a national accrediting agency that accredits, that kind of approves engineering programs in the United States. So we have one of the top engineering programs, and that's why we call them restricted majors. Any of the majors that are kind of engineering majors, whether it be mechanical engineering, civil engineering, biomedical, any of our computer science programs, these are restricted majors because there are certain requirements to be considered for those majors. Now, we kind of spell them out on our website, and each college will likely do so if they are strict requirements that they're looking for. Now, I can tell you for a fact, engineering students, if any of you are out there, you are going to absolutely need 4 years of math and science. So make sure even throughout your senior year, whether you need a math and science or not, that you take a math and science. High scores in math and science in your coursework. So 90s or above, okay? Shoot for those 90s or above. And just an overall cumulative GPA that's a bit higher than the average student that comes into Stony Brook, because it's so competitive to get into those programs. So if you're looking at a specific major and you know for a fact that you're going into that major and that's your dream and your goal, make sure you find out if there are any requirements for that major. Something like music or creative writing at Stony Brook also have some sort of restriction, because music requires an audition and creative writing requires a supplement to see your creative writing that you've done in the past. So just know that you're checking in, making sure that you're checking out all of the admissions pages for any school that you're potentially applying for to figure out if they need anything in particular. Now, the number one question that we are receiving now and have been in the past and probably will be for the next couple of years is, do I actually need to take the SAT or the ACT? Now, luckily, I'm so thankful. We just found out last week that SUNY did approve us to be test optional, or last week or the week prior. So we are test optional for, not for you guys, for you seniors that are here. There were a few seniors with us. For you seniors, we are test optional again. So for the fall of 2022 applications, for you seniors, for your friends who are transfers or older, we are test optional. Now, traditionally in the past, we have always required SATs or ACTs. So what SUNY is doing is kind of doing a lot of studies to figure out if we can stay test optional, maybe for the next few years, or I don't know, forever, or perhaps we are going to go back to requiring the SATs or ACTs. Now, you'll see a lot of schools either went test blind, they literally don't look at them at all, test optional, like how Stony Brook was, where you have the option as a student to submit your scores if you had the opportunity or the chance or the willingness to take those tests and did well. Some schools were not requiring tests, but if you applied for a restricted program or a scholarship, perhaps they were saying it's required. So there might be some sort of combination of this in the future. So for you juniors, we are encouraging you to to prepare to take the SATs or the ACTs. We don't have a preference as to which one you take. So whichever one you feel comfortable with, you can go ahead and start to prepare for this year and potentially take your first one in after the new year. SATs or ACTs are one of those funky areas. We have no solid answer for you if we're going to require them for all of you juniors and sophomores out there. So just make sure that you start to prepare to take them. We are encouraging all students coming in the next couple of years to take them, because if we go back to requiring them, we don't want you to be behind, okay? Now, another question that we get is, should I take this AP college or AP course? Should I take the college credit course? Do I need to take IB higher level courses? And the answer is, it can go either way. Is it better to have a 98 in a regular or advanced course in your high school than it is to have an 81 in an AP exam in an AP program? Yeah, it's better to have the 98. So it kind of goes, it's really up in the air. This is a personal decision. There's no right or wrong answer for this. Now, that's always irritating when someone says that to me. So what I'm going to do is just explain a little further. Don't think that you need to take APs and college level courses to get into Stony Brook or anywhere else that's a bit competitive. If you have a solid coursework plan throughout your 4 years, if you did really well in them, if you scored high, if you're a New York State student or an out-of-state student and you're scoring really high on your SATs, and you take the appropriate level coursework for you in context of what school you go to, that's more important than stockpiling in AP courses. Now, that's not to say that AP courses are not great. Advanced placement, college credit courses, for those of you in New York City, College Now courses. For those of you in an international baccalaureate program or an IB program, those higher level courses are wonderful. Not only do they really appear to us that you are in a higher level of rigor of coursework because you're kind of learning at a college level, but it also kind of puts you ahead of some of your peers when you start at a college, because you might be earning college credit for those courses. So it does kind of prepare you for college and the level of college coursework. It may get you some college credits when you start with us. We have students that take 60 credits of college coursework before they graduate high school, and they end up coming into Stony Brook as an entering junior. And only have a couple years left of their major. So it really depends on you as a student and how much you pursue. This is a conversation that you should be having with your parents and your counselors. Those are two resources. And for you parents out there, I know you're here because you are 100% supporting your children. So this is the type of conversation that you need to start having now, because you might have already taken an AP and maybe you didn't do so well. It is not suggested to continue taking that subject matter at an AP level and do kind of mediocre. If you can go to an advanced level or a regular level and do really well in it. Okay, we see this with students that want to go into some sort of STEM program, and they take every AP math and science that they possibly can and get 80s. And for our student base, we're really looking for 90s and higher in subject matters like that, especially for our restricted program. So it's almost better to take a level of coursework that's right for you, okay? Now, it kind of leads me into my next question. Who should I ask for help? This is where your counselors are going to come in handy, whether it be in your high school or whether you're part of a community-based organization, maybe your church, or your temple or your community center, or wherever it may be. Any of these areas will have some sort of college counselor, higher education counselor, educational consultant. These people's jobs are to help guide you through this process. Now, I will say we count. Okay. Myself, my colleagues who are here in the background, we are here to help you. Even if it's not for Stony Brook, if you just want to get the guidance of someone from that works in a college setting, in a college admissions office, and you're like, I really don't know. My parents say this, my counselor says this, and I'm sort of in the middle of these two answers, and you need a tiebreaker, call us up. We'll help you out. So we are considered counselors for a reason. So give us a call. We are here to help you, whether it's for Stony Brook or just in general. The other thing, your parents, your friends, these are people to use as resources. Now, sometimes you don't think of your friends as a guide, but maybe one of your friends has been sitting Googling colleges every night since freshman year, and they're this wealth of knowledge. So check everybody out, use anybody that you can to help guide you through this process. It is very confusing and is very stressful, and we are not unaware of that. So we are here to help guide you, okay? All right, so what we do when you start to kind of go through your junior year is how to prepare for a successful kind of transition to college. The number one thing, and we talked about this a little bit, is your academic planning. For students looking to come into Stony Brook or another competitive school, or maybe even some Ivy Leagues or some really restrictive schools like SUNY ESF, which is for certain majors, there's a level of academic planning that you need to start thinking about. If you have not ever thought of taking calculus and you're like, I hate math, but you want to go into an engineering major, this is the year to get yourself into a pre-cal course so you can take calculus next year. Okay. This is the year to start planning that out, because if you wait until your senior year to figure out what is required of you when you start applying to college for your specific area of interest, it's likely too late. We get students all the time that say, I didn't know I needed calculus for computer science. I've never even taken pre-calc, and my counselor says I can't go into it. Unfortunately, senior year is a little bit too late. So this is the year, if you have already picked your courses out for junior year and you start to figure out that you might need a different course or something else in place of something you've taken. If you wanted to take environmental science, but you've never taken chemistry, you might want to rethink those decisions. So now's the time to really start figuring out what you may need. Start to reach out. They're not working in the summer, but start to reach out to your counselors in school and see if there's the potential to either update your schedule or to switch something out or to add something in. Maybe you took too many study halls. Maybe you wanted to leave early and have early dismissal. Who knows, whatever the question is. But if you are interested in potentially really figuring out what is the best coursework for you to take, you can always call us up and ask, but you can also ask your counselors. They're wonderful resources most of the time for figuring out your academic planning. Now, your testing options is also really important. So we mentioned that we are encouraging all of our students, especially juniors, sophomores, freshmen, where we don't know if we're going to be test optional for you all. Testing options is really important. SATs, ACTs, which one do I take? If you're an international student, do you need to take some sort of English proficiency exam? So now's the time to really figure out what are the tests that you're going to need to apply to all the different schools that you might be interested in. Now, your schools will likely have some sort of SAT or ACT prep or guidance or resource in their counselor office to help you figure out if the SAT or the ACT is right. This is where your friends come in. This is where websites come in. You can figure out the difference between the two, but really start to figure out your testing options and where that may be. If your school, like I know in New York City, some schools will actually shut down the school and you take your SAT during the normal school day, which is awesome. Other states don't have that, and everyone has to sign up for the 4 SAT exams in particular sites around their county or their state. So just make sure that you're kind of figuring all that else out now. Talk to your counselors, connect with your counselors. Now's the time to do it. Okay. Not really this second. Again, they're not working this summer. Some of them are. But if you're part of a community-based organization or you have some sort of resource outside of your traditional school, this is the time that those people are still working more than likely, and you can utilize them as resources. Now is also the time to start doing some research. So for those of you who are really just getting started in the college exploration process, start to look now before you have homework, before you're studying for tests, before you have after school activities. So start to connect with your counselors and start to build your college list. It's not going to be settled. It's never really settled. Let's get real. But at least you'll have some sort of foundation for when you enter your senior year. So this junior year is really important for kind of setting you up for finalizing details in your senior year. In the beginning of your junior year, or probably the end, you'll start having junior meetings with your counselors and really setting that up. So start to prepare before that too. All right. So kind of sliding into how to spend your time. This is a very common question. How do I become the best candidate for you? What kind of extracurriculars can I join? What are you looking for outside of academics? So this is really specific to you. And the best kind of advice we can give is to spend your time wisely. Now, wisely does not mean that we're expecting everyone to be in 18 different organizations and clubs and be the president. And having been doing it for 4 years, especially during a worldwide pandemic. So wisely, it's for you. Okay. It's very individualized. There are so many different ways on how to spend your time outside of the classroom. Now, some of the more popular options, especially for Stony Brook students, are to take college level courses, whether it be throughout their summers. Like we have high school workshops and high school college credit courses at Stony Brook. So look into that, into your local schools, into a college nearby, and see if they have any college credit coursework that you could potentially do in the summers, and get down some preparatory courses, or maybe just courses that you find really interesting that you can transfer into a college later on. Another really great way that our potential applicants will spend their time traditionally is through any sort of job or internship. Now, I was a first generation student. I was not really prepared when I was going to school to have 10 different clubs that I was a part of, that I had been in them for a long time, that I held leadership roles in them, and I worked part-time after school. So that is also really important to us. Don't think that we don't want to know that. Okay. If you do an internship and it's not valid for the major that you're going into, we still want to know about it. We especially want to know how you spend your time. If that is watching your little brother or sister after school, if that is taking care of a grandparent, if that's having a part-time job because you need spending money or you're helping your family out, if it's an internship with your parents' business, or you're helping out your local community organization, or whatever it is, we want to know about it. So if you're doing that after school, even before school, some students, just make sure you tell us about it. That's also a great way to spend your time. Now, volunteer work, community service is also a wonderful way, not only to give back to your local communities, but also to really show us that you are kind of in a larger role in this world. We like to bring in students, especially to Stony Brook, but really to all colleges, that are going to enhance our college population, that will add something to our student body. And if that's someone like you and you love to give back and do volunteer work, it really speaks to us and resonates with us that you take the time to give back. So if that's what you're doing, keep logs of it. Sometimes students don't think to do so. They don't have to, so they don't think of it. Make sure you keep logs of it. It's always a wonderful way to show us how you spend your time. Now, the really go-getters, especially in the STEM fields, typically will have some sort of research. Now, this is something that's kind of special and unique, and is hard to find for a lot of students, especially right now, especially this past year. So if research is something that interests you, make sure you seek out different research opportunities, whether it be through your school, through local community colleges, local colleges, colleges like Stony Brook. We are a research institution, so we value research, whether that be in science, whether that be in the health world, or maybe you love doing research on cultures or doing research on park ecosystems. So there's a lot of different research out there. It's another great way to spend your time if that's something that interests you. Now, kind of another way is starting to investigate careers. Now, we have a career center, and I'll talk about that in just a second, that will assist you when you're a college student. But maybe you want to start thinking about careers now. Everyone thinks I want to be a doctor, but then you find out that there's doctors, there's surgeons, there's midwives, there's nurses, there's various levels of being a nurse. There's physician's assistant, there's physical therapist, there's radiation technologists, there's anesthesia technologists. So there's a lot of different fields out there in just the health world. That's equivalent everywhere. You may think you want to do business, but then which area of business do you go into? Do you want to go into economics? But is economics accounting in your head, or is accounting economics? Maybe you want to do global studies and international relations and work more on an international level. Maybe you want to specify business, but go into a finance world. So there's a lot of different fields, no matter which kind of major umbrella that you may be interested in now. So now's the time to really start thinking about that. And really kind of tailoring down what you want to do so that when you have to choose one major on a college application, you are prepared to choose that major. Now, whether or not you change your major, like I said, most students do at some point throughout their college career change their major. However, you want to start in a major you're interested in if you know it. If you don't know it, remember, we have all those resources for undecided students, and there is no shame in applying to a school that allows you to be undecided. All right. Now, what's really important your junior year and your senior year is really taking a self-inventory. It's kind of important to realize that you're a human. You're not just a student. You're not just a kid. You're not just someone's son or daughter. You are your own self. You are your own human. You are your own person. And every single person has different strengths, weaknesses, skills, abilities, and talents. Some of them are natural. Some of them you've accrued over time. Some of them you wish and plead every day to get better at. So this is the time to really start to think about who you are as a person, and really trying to figure out where your academic strengths lie, where your personal interests are. Maybe they line up, maybe they don't. So what I mean by that is if you want to go into biology as your major and your personal interests are in English, maybe biology is not the major for you. So there's kind of sometimes that they correlate and sometimes they don't. Now, we also have students who have different skills and abilities and talents. Now, talents can sometimes align with what you want to do. I love singing. I sang in college, but it was just for fun. I did not major in music. So if that's something that's important to you and you want to make sure that your college that you're going to has a karate team because you've been doing karate for the past 12 years, make sure to figure out if they have a karate team. That's also really important when you're figuring out kind of where you want to go, what's important to you. Okay. Let's see. This is likely the first time that you're going to start thinking like this. This is also likely the first time when you apply to college that you're going to be evaluated by someone outside of your counselor, your parents, and your friends. This is likely the first time that we're going to be kind of judging you and reading you. So how do you read? You know what I mean? So you really have to figure out you so that when you are starting to apply to colleges, you can put your best foot forward. You know exactly what you want to show off. And really highlight in your college application. It's important to also be able to put these items into words. Remember that knowing that you're good at something and stating it or writing it is not bragging, especially when you're applying to college. So we've never met you, we need to know who you are, you're going to have to brag a little. And some high schools will actually have you fill out something called a brag sheet. And they literally call it a brag sheet because it's always like so embarrassing to really write down like, oh, I'm so good at this and I'm so good at this and I rule at this. But now's the time to really start figuring out what those strengths are, how to put them into writing, because remember, we don't meet you a lot of the time. At Stony Brook, we have no interviews for our admissions process. So we are just reading whatever you wrote down. So really figure out how you read, how you come off. And the best way to do that is to start now, figuring it out mentally, then putting it down in paper and having your counselor read it, having your parents read it, having your friends read it, or all the different resources that you have. All right, so one of the other ways to really spend the next year is to explore schools. I've mentioned this a couple of times. Now's the year to really do that. So senior year, you know exactly what colleges you're applying to, okay? Some of you know, some of you don't. You're perfectly fine. You have a whole year, okay? But there's such a wide variety in colleges and universities, especially in the United States. If you're looking, if you're an international student, you have a whole world to really choose from. If you are a student in the United States or a student in New York, tons and tons of options. So you really have to figure out, where do you want to go to school? Do you want to stay in New York? Do you want to explore? Would you like to go to another country? Is there a reason you want to go to another country? Do you want to immerse yourself in a particular culture? Or do you want to be located in New York City? So there's a lot of different options of schools, even just geographically, even just the size of an institution. If you love small classes, go to a smaller type of school that focuses on small classes. If you want to be immersed in athletics and culture and having all of these different resources, go to a larger school. So every school is a little bit different with how they kind of utilize all of the different departments and programs and supports that they have. Your job over the next year is to figure out what you want to take advantage of. Now, here's kind of a question for you parents out there and for your students who have never had this conversation before. What can you afford? It's really an important topic and question to ask yourselves now. I can't tell you the number of students that find out in the summer before they're able to start college. So we're talking about, you already enrolled in classes, you set up for a dorm, you're about to move in, and a month before you go, you get your bill and you figure out, whether it be on your own or through your parents or through financial aid, that you cannot afford to go to that school. And now what? So have those conversations now. If your parents or guardians or family members are helping you, start to figure out how much you can afford in tuition. Not everyone gets a scholarship. Not everyone gets top financial aid, and not everyone gets a free ride, no matter how great of a student you are. So start to really have that awkward conversation. Now, the next most important thing is, does the college that you want to go to have what you want? A lot of students already have a mental list of like, these 3 schools I'm definitely applying for, but maybe they don't have your major, or maybe you've been cheerleading forever and there's not a single cheerleading, kick line, dance team in that school. So really figure out if the colleges that are on your mental list or maybe your paper list have what you want academically, have what you want outside of academics, and are really the school for you. Don't go by where your friends are applying. Don't go by where your parents attended. Go by what you want and what you want out of life and what you want out of the university. And most importantly, tour the campus. We're just starting to get back to in-person tours. Our tours filled up within 24 hours after we posted them for the entire summer, you guys. So now's the time to start thinking about where you want to tour over the next year so that you are able to see these schools. The students that are coming into our campus this year have never been to our campus. There's a possibility of that. So make sure you take advantage of the opportunity, of the potential of touring a campus if you can. Now, if you can't get to that campus, thank you, COVID, for the one thing is that most college campuses have virtual tours of their campus now. So if they didn't before, they likely do now. Take a virtual tour at least. See it for your own eyes. See if it's something you like. If you're looking for a more urban campus, you want to be in a city setting, and you find that the buildings are miles apart and all that's in between is fields, maybe not for you, even if you thought it was. So take a virtual tour if you can. Now, here are this is where you can start to utilize all different sorts of resources. And I'm going to post a big long thing in the chat. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. Let me post some things in the chat because they're all going to be incredible resources for you over the next year. I have students that will click on every link, and then I have students that will not click on any of this. I don't know why I can't paste. Hold on. Maybe it's too big because there's just so many resources. So the first one is all these kind of preparation resources. And these are resources that you can utilize on how to prepare for your junior year or junior year checklists, college planning for 11th grade. There's even a parent action plan for your parents or for the parents that are here with us. There are checklists for you as well on how to help your student prepare. Now, the next one is kind of career exploration. College Board, which is a huge one. And then there's a couple others that help with career planning. Now's the time to start thinking maybe sort of backwards. Maybe you know of exactly the career that you want, and now you have to figure out how to get there. Maybe there's a bunch of careers that interest you and you want to figure out what major you need or how many years of schooling that takes. So working backwards is also a really great way to start to go about that. Financial resources, whether it be through the federal government or scholarships or all that kind of stuff. The next thing I posted in the chat is all about financial resources. And the last thing I'm posting are all of the Stony Brook resources. So if you are interested in Stony Brook, hope that you are. If you are, those are all the different resources throughout Stony Brook that we offer. Now, I did post, because I mentioned it, high school programs. This year, it might be a little too late. So start to think about next summer, how to best utilize your time next summer. Maybe it is getting college credit or a certification or just taking a course at a college that's not for credit, just for knowledge and experience. So different high school programs through us, all the different ways of getting to learn more about Stony Brook is also in there. So make sure you utilize all the different resources and getting to know a little bit more about what you want to do. Now, I believe that the last thing is just ways to connect with us. So you can email us, you can call us, you can text us. It's up on the screen. You can jot it down. Utilize us. That's what we're here for. And students, parents, counselors, they call us and say, I know my students aren't really interested in Stony Brook. I just wanted to get your insight as to how you review students who don't submit SAT scores. That's a perfectly acceptable question. And we get those questions all the time. So whether you're interested in Stony Brook in the long game or not, we're here for you. That's what we do. That's what we really enjoy. So just make sure that you connect with us if you want. All right. So I see that all of the people in the background have answered 53 questions so far. Thank you all for putting your questions in the Q&A. There are some in here that I'm going to be answering live. So stick around if your question was not answered or you just want to hear all the frequently asked questions that we get. I'll be answering your questions from the Q&A. So number one, how do we put ourselves out there when applying to college? And that's a great way. That's a great question. I would say number one way is to demonstrate your interest in that particular school. And you might hear this a few times from different schools, demonstrated interest. Basically what that means is officially visit each school. What you did today, you had to sign up to attend this event. That's demonstrating interest in Stony Brook University. Then if you sign up for a tour in the fall, that's demonstrating interest. So just make sure every time that you are visiting a school or learning about a school, that you do fill out the registration form correctly. Don't put question marks as your first and last name. Don't put initials and a false address. Don't put an email address that's not valid. We'll know, and then it doesn't count. You took the time to learn more about a school and then kind of shut it down. So demonstrate your interest for the schools that you are actually interested in. If it's a school that you're like, I just need to look at the website a little bit before I do that, go right ahead. You have time to do that, okay? What makes a good college admissions essay? So funny enough, we were supposed to have an event yesterday about writing a college essay and tips and tricks from our creative writing department here at Stony Brook. It did not happen. There was something that happened with the Zoom, and it's taking place on Tuesday. So if you got the email that invited you to that event, or you want to learn more, send us an email. We'll send you the link for that. But it's going to be incredible because it's creative writing professionals. These are people that write for a living. But just to give you my couple of tips, writing a good college essay is not an essay that you write in a night. It's also not an essay that no one has ever read before. So make sure you have plenty of people proofread your essay. Use capitalization, correct punctuation, paragraph formation, all the things your English teachers have tried to teach you. And really make it focused. If you choose a particular topic instead of writing like a general essay, make sure you answer what was kind of in question for that topic. The other good thing about a college admissions essay is to let yourself shine as a person. I've said it before, you are not just a student, okay? Don't reiterate your transcript. Don't tell us about clubs we see on your resume or in your application. Now's the time to bring up a really important part of your life, who you are as a person, a moment in time that changed who you are, something really important to you. So we want to get to know who you are. And see if you're a good fit for the university. Make sure your writing skills are great, but also that we're learning something about you. So make sure to put your literal 2 cents in there, that you're putting your own blood, sweat, and tears into that essay. And don't write an essay that you think we want to read, because more than likely we don't want to read it. And we know that you're writing it for that reason. Another big tip, don't write about COVID unless it's something that changed who you are. If you had a death in the family, let's say, I'm so sorry for your loss, but don't write an essay about grandpa that passed away. Write an essay about how grandpa's loss affected you and the way that it's changed your life. Again, this college essay is your time to shine. So don't write it about COVID in general. I would write it about something that made you realize that it changed XYZ. So utilize that as well. All right, so how does switching majors work? Let's say I start in biology, but then I want to switch to history. Is that possible? I'm still undecided between these two, and I love that you're undecided between biology and history. First of all, there's something called double majoring and minoring in school. So let's say you love them both. You can't choose. You've taken classes in your first year as both. You really can't choose. You could potentially double major in both areas, or you could major in one area and minor in the other. You could also really switch between the two. If you take your first biology course and you're like, I am never passing this course, which does happen. If that happens, you can switch your major. Now, we allow students to switch their majors up until their 45th credit, which is usually in the middle to end of your sophomore year. And the reason for that is, if you're utilizing financial aid, you need to be making progress towards your diploma, but also that you're not kind of wavering and spending too much time taking courses that don't make sense for any particular major. That's where our academic advisors and our career center really comes in play to help you figure out which of these two, after you take some courses and you're like, I love them both, I don't know what to do. Utilize the resources that we have on campus to really figure that out. Okay, so what exactly is a major and minor? Really great follow-up to the last thing. So a major is exactly what it sounds like. It's a major area of focus of your education. In the United States, all schools that are accredited, that are authorized to give diplomas and bachelor degrees and all sorts of different things, are required to have a liberal arts education or a general education. Every single student is going to have to take some version of a math, a science, some sort of social science, some sort of history course. That's required in the United States to be accredited. Okay. Now, a major is outside of all those courses, and that's about half of your degree, is that like kind of liberal arts area. Outside of that, the highest number of courses you take is your major. Okay. And that's where you're focusing your efforts. If you're a business major, these are going to be courses in the business field. If you're a political science major, it's going to be all sorts of different political science and law programs. If you choose a minor, that is a separate, smaller area. So you're taking your liberal arts, you're taking all of your major coursework, and then you add in a minor, it's a couple of extra courses. It's about 18 to 21 credits, which is, I would say, 6 or 7 courses throughout your whole time in your 4 years. So a minor is small, it's minor, but it's an area of focus that you might want to add into your major, or just to take because it's something that interests you. Do A-level exams work in place of an AP exam? Not particularly. A-level exams will work for more of a transcript, to give us a level of your proficiency in those subject areas. What does CRing do, or just replacing a grade with credit? So CRing, so in your high school, if you received credit instead of an actual grade, what that basically means to us is that you passed that course. We have to be able to take that into context of your school, how they issued that, and we read that in your school profile. Your counselor informs us of how they did that. If the bulk of the population took CRs for their junior year, or their freshman or sophomore year for you all, then that's the bulk of your school. But if you decided to take that one particular CR in a field that you got a 67 in because you didn't want to show that you didn't do so well, it might stand out on your transcript. So we take everything into context of not only your school, but also, I don't know, a worldwide freaky kind of happenstance of COVID. So, it's always in context. It's really particular to your school and to you, but we read every single transcript of every single student. Can you talk about recommendation letters? Absolutely. So recommendation letters are something that you should start thinking about now, because they are sometimes, and a lot of counselors will say they should be from junior year professors or teachers. So maybe you're going into a subject matter that you're not so great in, but you put a lot of work into, and you build up a relationship and this kind of work relationship with your teacher this upcoming year. That's a great resource to utilize as a recommendation letter. Now, every single school will likely require some sort of recommendation. We at Stony Brook only require one. I would say on average, we take 2 or 3 from most students. Most students submit more than one. Some students don't submit any, and then we have to request one. So just make sure you are prepared to go into senior year having already asked your junior year teachers or anyone you had freshman, sophomore year to write a recommendation letter for you. Recommendation letters maybe do not have to come from an academic place or from a teacher per se. If, like I said, if you are, you played football, but your school doesn't have football, so your coach outside of football, outside of school is someone that you want to write one of your recommendations, absolutely go for it. So you really want to check into each school and see what they require. When you change your major, let's say something as drastic as health sciences to something like filmmaking, would it set you back? Sometimes. And if you do it early enough, like that's why we require it for your 45th credit in between kind of your sophomore year, so that your last 2 years are focused in the area that you are pursuing. If you change your major in your junior or senior year of school, you will likely be set back. But that's where extra classes during the fall and spring semesters, classes over the winter, classes in the summer, those can really help guide you, because you wouldn't want to graduate from a degree that means nothing to you if you can avoid it. If you can graduate on time, or if you can graduate in a certain level of time, and it works for you, go ahead and change your major. But that's where our academic advisors come in. That's where your program advisors come in to help guide you through that process. And it can sometimes happen. If you transfer schools and you are going to a film school that's not accredited, and now you want to come for political science at Stony Brook, likely none of those courses from a non-accredited school will transfer. So you have to really figure out if that's right for you. And that's something we can help you out with. Can we talk about study abroad programs? Also, what's your psychology and public major like? Study abroad is something that's really important to our students. I suggest that you come, well, information sessions will touch upon it, but study abroad is something that you can take advantage of throughout your time, your 4 years at Stony Brook. It can happen as soon as your second semester freshman year. It can happen all the way into your senior year. I would say the bulk of our students take advantage of study abroad in their sophomore and junior years. Sometimes it's throughout a semester and you're gone for 15 or 20 weeks. Sometimes it's just a couple of weeks over the winter break. Sometimes it's a month in a summer and it has nothing to do with interfering with your academics. Some of them have to do with your major, some are just for fun. So if study abroad is something that interests you, know that Stony Brook is part of SUNY. We are a SUNY public institution in the state of New York. Now, being a part of SUNY means that there are 63 other campuses that offer, or almost all of them offer, some sort of study abroad that you can take advantage of because it's a university-wide thing. So study abroad is really wonderful. Now, psychology, public health, it just says public major. Psychology is one of the most popular. It's very kind of cross-utilizing. You can go into a lot of different fields from that. So I would say email us if you want to learn more about psychology, or check out, if you just Google SBU psychology, they have an awesome video on their page about what the psychology major is really like. Interested in public health and medicine, would it be okay to cold email public health departments such as the one in Stony Brook for opportunities online shadowing? You can, there's no harm in it. Sometimes you'll get a response, sometimes you won't. There's no harm in asking. If you get 20 no's, but you get one yes, that's one more yes than you had yesterday. So I would check more local, more community-based, unless there's special high school programs for such opportunities and online shadowing. We have a program called SARAS, S-A-R-A-S, which is a program for high school students, and it's located in our hospital. And basically, it's a program to help guide you through what all the different departments of a hospital do. So it opens your mind to the health world and the medical world. So that's just one of our programs, and we do offer it. It's very limited, very competitive to get into, but it's there. But that we're not the only one. So make sure you check it out. If you decided to waive Regencies and decided not to take any tests, but got a 95 in the class, will it have any effect? If you didn't take it, we don't take it into consideration. Okay, it's as easy as that. Same thing with SATs, no negative connotation. If you did not take Regencies, if you, over the past 2 years, if you did not have the ability to take an SAT, there is no negative impact if you don't submit them. On the SARAS website, you posted it doesn't show where you can apply for next year. That's right. The application is not available. It's still currently going for this year. They will likely not have an application until next spring. So it's stuff, make a list now of all the potential sites that you want to pursue. If there's no application or no contact information for now, check back probably in, I'd say, January, starting to figure out all of those different possibilities for next summer. Usually application dates are sometime in late spring, so you don't want to apply late, especially for a competitive program like SARAS. All right, I think I've answered all the questions in the chat. We have made it just about to 5 o'clock. Thank you all for sticking through for a 60-minute session with me. Again, in the chat, let's go ahead and make sure that I don't have it open. There it is. Amanda, if you can check in there, just the enroll at stonybrook.edu. Again, it's on your screen as well. Enroll at stonybrook.edu is how to get in touch with us. Maybe your question was not answered today. Maybe you didn't want to ask it. Maybe 2 weeks from now or 3 months from now, you have a question for us. That's how to get in touch with us. You can call us. You can also text us if that's more preferable. Remember that we only have limited space in text. So if you're going to ask 18 questions, do that in an email. But you can also text us for a quick question. We're here for you. Utilize us. Thank you all so much for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your beautiful night if you have beautiful weather. If you're up at 1:30 in the morning just to see this, thank you so much for waking your little booty up. And we hope that you enjoyed it and learned something, and get in touch with us if you want, and enjoy the rest of your day and night. Thanks, everybody.